Hey everybody, welcome back to Board Game Blender. My name is Zeke Garcia. Today's episode we are calling Under Construction. And that's because we're talking about games that you build the board as you play. So tile laying games, city building games, that sort of thing. I remember one of my first loves in board gaming, and one of the first game that did present this idea to me was Carcassonne. And I remember very distinctly punching out the tiles for Carcassonne and reading the rules and figuring out that this was a board game that you played without a board. Yet, there was no board at the beginning. You would build that board as you played. And that concept just blew my mind. It was amazing. It was revolutionary to me. And so I've always had a soft spot for tile laying games. I'm not as big a fan of city building games, not because of the tile laying part, but because of the scoring can sometimes be a little convoluted in those. And that doesn't really thrill me typically, but tile laying, I adore tile laying games. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Talking about one of my first loves. I want to talk about one of my more recent loves and do a little bit of a giveaway here. So one of my more recent loves is Onirim right here, a solitaire or two-player, but I love playing solitaire. A solitaire card game with a real great balance between being quick but being thinky, being interesting but being straightforward. It's just fantastic little card game. And they just came out with an app for this game that if you haven't checked, I do recommend you check out. But we're going to be doing a little giveaway for 5 codes for the Onirim app. And so here's how this is going to work. You're going to send me an email at my email. I'm going to write it on the screen, but it's zdicetower@gmail.com, Z-E-E, Dice Tower. You're going to send me an email. Make sure that the subject of that email is Onirim app, A-P-P. There's a space between those 2 words, okay? That needs to be specific. Otherwise, I might miss that email. So, Onirim or Onirim app. Send me that email. That's all you need to do. I'm going to register you, and then I'm going to randomly draw out 5 of those emails, and you're going to get an email from me asking you if you want an iOS or an Android code, and I'm going to fire off that code to you, and that's it. And then you get to enjoy the game, which, as I said, is really one of my absolute favorites. So, make sure you do that. I'm going to announce the winner on the next episode. That's it. So, yeah, get in on that. It's a small giveaway, as I said, but it's a fun one. Just a little something to give back to you because, again, we're all about celebrating games here, whether they are cardboard and tiles and cards or apps of great, fantastic board games and card games. So, having said all that, make sure you send me that email, and I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you find at least one new game you maybe hadn't heard about, maybe one you forgot about, and rekindle that enjoyment with it, or discover a brand new favorite. So here we go.
Hey guys, Tiff here. This week's theme is Under Construction. And while I have roughly 20 billion variations of Carcassonne in my collection, I decided to go with something a little less obvious. I bought it a couple of years back, but found it a bit too simple for my adult group. So I gave it to the Board Game Club kids to see if it would work for them, and it did. It's more of a tile deconstruction game, but I think it still works for this theme. So this week, I'm talking about Dig Mars. Dig Mars is an action point allowance game from Brain Games where you play as competing corporations mining for treasure in the Martian canyons. It plays 2 to 4 players in about 30 minutes. To start, you create the board by making a 4x4 grid of tiles 3 tiles deep. Then, in turn order, each player places one of their 4 station tokens on the board. Each player gets 3 tiles representing their equipment for digging, carrying treasure, and the number of mining stations they can use. The tiles all start with a marker on level 1, which indicates the power of the action associated with that equipment. On your turn, you can take up to 3 actions. You can move, dig, carry, or upgrade your equipment. The move action is the simplest. All you do is move one of your station tokens to a horizontally or vertically adjacent stack of tiles. You can move to a stack with other players' stations or even a space that is empty of tiles. To dig, you must have one of your station tokens on an unexplored stack of tiles. If your digging equipment is equal to or greater than the digging level on the tile, you can flip it over. Some tiles have a bonus action that you also get to take that turn. The carry action works like the dig action in that one of your stations has to be on the tile you want to collect, and your equipment level must match the level of the tile. When you carry a tile, you put it in your play area face down so your opponents can't see exactly how many points you have. As you collect points, you can use them to perform the upgrade action and increase the levels of your equipment. Each upgrade costs points equal to the level you are coming from, so an upgrade from level 2 to level 3 costs 2 fortune points. Of course, points are also how you win the game, so it's important to check for the victory condition on your turn. In a 4-player game, 20 points is the goal, and you win immediately if you can declare victory on your turn. Dig Mars is a very light game, but it's a great choice if you're looking to introduce younger players into other action point-based games. My Board Game Club kids enjoy it more with the cooperation rule that allows players to combine the power of their equipment with the other players to dig or carry high-level tiles. It's nice to find a competitive game that has the possibility of positive player interaction. That's not to say there aren't opportunities for take that, but it's all dependent on the kind of players you have. My adult group found this game fairly flat and abstract, but the kids had a lot of fun timing their actions and really got into the competitive mining spirit. So I guess it's all in the eye of the beholder. If you have a need for a quick and easy tile game with great art, Dig Mars can definitely get the job done. Check it out, and I'll see you back next time.
Hey everyone, it's Nerd E here, and on today's episode of Who Am I, we're looking at tile placement and city building games where you're building out, creating a big city and trying to add to it, etc. The game that I feel does this the best and the most fun that I have in playing is, of course, Suburbia by Ted Alspach and Bezier Games. Suburbia is a fantastic game that has what I want in a game, and that is a solo variant. So I'm going to talk about the solo variant in this. Well, where am I? Well, I am building a city as a city manager, trying to put the different housing areas and the industrial areas of the town and certain areas to try to make sure that they maximize profits and maximize population. Who am I? Like I just said, I'm that city manager, so I have free reign to place tiles next to different tiles to try to get them to compound off each other. If you want urban development, you want to go here. If you want to put a gas station, if you want to put a fancy restaurant, you want to make sure that those aren't next to the landfill, etc., etc. So you're able to do all those things. So that's who am I. Now, how am I? Well, it's pretty abstract if you really think about it. You're just placing tiles down next to each other. But if you really have the ability to, as a city manager, start from scratch and come up with the best plan as you went along building a city, I think this would be pretty well done. I think this is pretty much how you would have to do it. You kind of have to look at it on the board, see how it can all place out. So really, the how am I think it simulates building a city pretty well. Of course, the randomization of the tiles coming out in the play, etc., makes it a little bit different. Now, the solo version of this is you're kind of competing with an AI trying to get points. Obviously, that's not really how building a city works. You're not really competing with opponents, but theoretically, I guess you're competing with someone on the other side of the table that's trying to pitch their city building prowess against yours to the mayor or something like that. But Suburbia is a great tile placement city building game that I love a lot. It's got a great solo mode, which is one of the things that I always look for in a game. So I say I feel like a city manager when I play this game, and I think you should give it a try. Thanks, everyone.
Howdy folks, welcome to the 2-player Showdown. Today, Drake and I are presenting to you Xia, Legends of a Drift System, a game by Cody Miller, published by Far Off Games. It plays 3 to 5 players. It takes anywhere from 1 to a whole bunch of hours. Let's take a closer look. Xia, Legends of a Drift System is a sandbox-style game, meaning how you play the game is basically up to you. There are numerous ways to score fame points, which are your victory points in the game. You can explore areas of the map, complete missions, destroy ships other than your own, trade goods, and much more. Merchant, pirate, explorer. The choice is up to you. The game comes with beautiful pre-painted miniatures, 21 ships in fact. It has some of the best metal coins in gaming that come standard in the box. You can upgrade your ship with components or outfits that you fit on your ship Tetra style, which makes maximizing your ship ability interesting. You can buy bigger and bigger ships. There's 3 sizes of ships that you can upgrade to throughout the game. First one to a set number of fame points wins the game. The first thing you'll notice about Xayah is its amazing components, as you saw in the overview. I love the pre-painted miniatures, because I'm not a very good painter. It has all these different kinds of trade goods. They're cool little different colored cubes. These awesome little orange tokens for damage. And like I said again in the overview, the coins. I love these little triangular shaped coins that come standard in the game. You don't have to upgrade to get the cool coins. Xayah is a sandbox game. You can do whatever you want. You can be a pirate, you can be a merchant, you can be a pirate, then become a merchant, or be a merchant that's occasionally a pirate. Whatever you want to do is up to you. And I really enjoy games like that where you can play differently every time. You know, one time you might want to lead the good life and be a good merchant, and another time you want to be a bloodthirsty pirate. I love that. The game does have its flaws. I love Xayah, but I know there are some aspects of the game that's not for everyone. One of them, the big one probably, is the randomness of the game. The movement is random. It's partially a roll and move game, so if you have an engine that can move you 1 to say 8 spaces, if you get unlucky and roll a 1, you only move 1 space this turn. If you get lucky and roll an 8, you get to move a bunch. There's things in the game such as flying through asteroid fields or mining that can blow your ship up and things like that. So you have to have that mindset of random weird things might happen. Another downside of the game is the downtime. This game can have a lot of downtime because one person does their entire turn before the next person does their entire turn. This can be mitigated some by having a shorter game. The game allows you to choose how many fame points you want to go for victory, anywhere from 20 or 15 or 10, or you could even do a 5-point game. I probably wouldn't recommend it, but that's because it's a really quick game. But you can shorten the game down based on the number of fame points you want to go for. A lot of the randomness in the game can be mitigated. You can explore the space you're about to go to before you go to. You kind of scan it or whatever, and you'll know what you're getting into before you can go in. You can blind jump into it, and that's a little bit quicker and riskier way to do it, but you can end up flying into the sun if you don't choose correctly. So some of that can be mitigated, but there is definitely randomness in the game. There's an expansion coming out for Xayah very soon. It's called Xayah Embers of a Forsaken Star. That expansion has lots of cool looking things, and it solves many of the problems that I mentioned in the original game, and it has official 2-player rules. Rebecca and I played this 2-player with our own little variant, but the expansion puts the rules for 2-player in the box along with a solo variant. So even though it is super random, it is super fun. Drake and I recommend Xayah Legends of a Drift System.
Go get Ray.
For today's game, Under the Radar, I'm going to talk about a game which, as I always do, I feel does not get enough love, and this is called Old World, New World from Victory Point Games. It's a game in which players are going to be playing cards that act as tiles, and they are going to be trying to traverse the board from one side of the other. You start with an empty grid of 6x6. You play these cards out, you move your soldiers or your ships across the different land types, try to come out of the other side, and the first person to move 3 pieces, ships or soldiers, off of the board on the other side is the winner of the game. Now there's a few caveats I want to talk about here before I keep telling you why I think this game deserves a little more attention, and that is that the game really works best with 4 players. I wouldn't want to play with fewer than that, so 4 is exactly what you need. You got 2 players opposing left and right, and you have 2 players opposing top and down. It's the most interesting combination. And the other thing is that, as I say, opposing players, the game does have quite a bite to it. There's a lot of confrontation, there's a lot of destroying land tiles, there's a lot of sending people back to the home base, things like that. So if you don't like confrontation in your games, this one's probably not for you. Having said that, though, the game is full of those moments that I love in this kind of game, in which you can spot a puzzle and solve that puzzle. You can really bounce from one place to another, being tricky with your placement, being tricky with your moves, in order to progress something way across the board and make it sometimes all the way off the board. And seeing those moments, even if you're not the one who comes up with that move, it's really interesting. It's really fantastic to be able to spot that, someone do that and go, wow, that's impressive. And you are going to get some of those moments per game in this one. In the game, to give you a little bit of an idea of how it works, everybody gets a hand of 5 of those cards, and on your turn you're going to be playing up to 2 of them, or you can burn the cards. And you can do as many free moves as you can, free actions. The idea of burning a card is so that you can, by burning that card, by getting rid of that card, you can deploy, you can move, or you can convert units. You can convert from a ship to a soldier to a ship, or you can move. You can start moving across the board. On top of that, you've got some cards which are action cards, and these are going to allow you to mess with the board state. Things like Continental Drift, which allow you to move a terrain card of your choice one step, up, down, left, right, onto an empty place, or you can just leave it there and rotate it, and allows you to make a move later on. You can have tornadoes that allow you to move any unit around because the tornado picks them up, drops them off. You can have pirates. The pirates are very mean. You can pick a space on the board, any port, and all the units there and all the spaces around the pirates are destroyed. So yes, there is certainly confrontation, as I said in the game. You will have those moments where you feel like you are set back, but the game does not feel like it devolves into a take that game, and that's what I like about it. It is highly tactical. There are ways you can come back and recover and move around in a tricky way to allow you to come out on top. And so I very much recommend this one. The production quality of the game is not fantastic. Victory Point Games is not necessarily known for putting out high quality, production-wise anyway, high quality products. But their games are oftentimes very interesting. And this one, while it seems no one's really been paying attention to it, is also a very interesting game. Play with 4. Don't worry too much about being picked on. And I think you're going to enjoy your play of Old World, New World.
Hello, my name's Dan, and this is my board gaming time capsule. Now then, we don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but what we do know is that eventually the world is going to fill up with rubbish and trash and detritus and all sorts of things that no one in their right mind would ever want to own. And eventually, this level of rubbish is going to get so great that we're going to have to abandon Earth and flee to the stars in giant convoys of big spaceships. When the human race does flee the planet, we're going to be very limited in what we can take with us. However, I'm pretty confident that the leaders of the future will recognise that this time capsule is a fantastic source of wisdom and knowledge, and they'll be very keen to take it with them as a sacred artefact of times gone by. And so, it's really, really important that we put something in this time capsule that's going to be helpful to the people of the future. Help them find a new planet to live on, Mars, for example, and help them make it inhabitable. Terraform it, you might even say. Now, I know what you're thinking. However, I'm not made of money. Have you seen how much they're charging for terraforming Mars? Now, granted, they've got spectacular artwork and wonderful quality components, but I'm going to Dice Tower Con this year. I'm having to save up. I can't even afford to feed my kids. And so, I can't afford to be giving the people of the future terraforming Mars, no matter how useful it will be. They're just going to have to find a planet to inhabit that's already terraformed, that's already like an Earth. They're going to have to find a new world, and that's where this game comes in. because there's no better game to teach you how to settle a new world than this. Keyflower. Keyflower is a delicious mix of worker placement, auction and pick up and deliver mechanics that plays equally as well with 2 players as it does with 6. Like most of the games in Richard Breese's Key series, it has lovely, delicate artwork which is almost entirely covered by some really horrible graphic design choices. However, you do get a load of cool looking houses to use as players' shields. I like the one with the dog. Keyflower is a really fantastic game, and I'd even go so far as saying it's one of the few essential games that people should have in their collection. There was even a sequel to it released last year, which I was really excited about until I heard that it was going to be set in London. London, not Huddersfield. Did London build the UK's largest nodding dog? Is it the setting for the longest running sitcom in the world? Or does it have a man in a bunny costume forcing its residents to run round a park every Saturday? No, it doesn't. Ridiculous. But all that aside, Keyflower's a fantastic game, and if you haven't played it, you really should. It's great. So there you go, Keyflower, a fantastic game to send to the future and one of my top 10 games of all time. But I'm curious, what game would you send to the future in order to help them learn to inhabit a new planet? Let me know in the comments below. All that's left to do is to pop Keyflower into the time capsule.
And today for our building games, I have chosen Glenmore, one of my favorite all-time Euros. This is how I introduce people to what a Euro should be. It's a little bit of tiling, a little bit of drafting, a little bit of a market, tons of resource management. It's got a little bit of everything. But it's very clear, there's lots of ways of scoring points, it's pretty straightforward, and it's short, blessedly short. This one goes out of print pretty often, but there will be a new version of it coming out in the next year or so. In the game, what is really the twist, and you don't see this in games too often, is that players all score relative to each other. So you get scored on the number of castles, whiskey barrels, and retired chieftains you have relative to the player who has the fewest. I really like this game at 4 or 5 players. It works really well for a Euro at 5. At 2 to 3 players, it has kind of a randomizer die that removes tiles for you, and that can be kind of frustrating because it can eliminate castles and all kinds of neat, juicy things. So I love this game and encourage you to look for it in board game swaps and those types of things. And then for something newer and a little bit funkier, I have Vast the Crystal Caverns. This is from the first printing. They made just enough for their Kickstarter backers and then about 500 more that sold out at Gen Con last year. Each player takes on a different role, so you can be the cave or a dragon or a knight, and each role has its own mechanisms and win conditions. Depending on how many players you have, you grab a number of characters, and so say I'm the dragon, there's no knight in the game, I may have a different win condition, but there's always a way to play any number of the characters together. But the most unique thing about this game is that you can play the cave. So each turn you're going to be adding tiles to the board, you're going to be adding tiles as the knight runs around, and you have to diplomatically work with the goblins and the dragons to make sure the knight doesn't win, but you can't give the dragon and the goblins so much room that they go and win, because you are the cave, you want to collapse on all of them. So it's a really fabulous, well thought out, interesting game that favors groups that play with the same group over and over, because learning this game is kind of a beast. That's all from me for now, and I'll see y'all next time.
Welcome back to the Quirky Game, everybody. Today I'm talking about Factory Funner right here. In Factory Funner, and in most other games rather, when you are playing tiles out, those tiles represent typically landscape, you are exploring land, or they'll represent buildings or constructions, that sort of thing. In this one, you're not quite doing that. You are inside of one specific building, and you are building up that factory floor with different machines, wacky stuff. But you are basically using these tiles here to create machines that then will output specific materials and feed other machines, other tiles, creating new and interesting combinations, scoring you victory points. The other thing is that in most tile laying games, The tile laying part is a little bit of a puzzle, and then you play the rest of the game. The game isn't, the tile laying part isn't the game, isn't the puzzle. It's sort of a thing you do and then play on those tiles. In this game, not so. In this game, the tile laying part of the game, is the puzzle. And it is very thinking, very puzzly. And that's what I think makes it stand out. It's such a brain-burning game, or it can be. But it's so clever, so interesting, allows for so many aha moments where you can see something, you see it works, you make it happen, and it just gives you that, a little bit of that, I feel, satisfied with what I've done feeling, which I very much appreciate when a designer is able to put that into a game. Especially a lot of little of those moments, And this game, I think, does that very well. Basically, what you are doing is, as I said, you have a factory floor, kind of looks like that. And you are going to be drafting these tiles in real time, though you don't want to go too quickly because you'll get a penalty if you just start grabbing willy-nilly. And you don't want to take too long because someone might take the one that really fits perfectly in your board. But at some point you grab one, you flip some, you grab one, and then you add it to your board. And you are making connections. There are, on these tiles, there are connections that lead out from the tile, and some tiles have connections that lead in. You match up the colors. You will then lay down pipe to connect these tiles to one another to create your factory floor. And you score victory points. The game comes with a little score track right here. You're going to keep track of how many points you have based on the tile, based on how much money you are spending on those pipes. Those will cost you. So you want to use them, but you want to use them sparingly, as little as possible. And you are going to play several rounds until the game is over, see who did the best. And I'll tell you, I love, as I said in the intro, I love the idea of a game looking like it evolves from round to round. This is one of the absolute best ones for that. You start with a completely empty board, and by the end, you can just look around the table and see completely different creations. Some of them will be clumped and very tightly done. Some of them have pipe running up and down the whole board, very clever ways, with splits and combinations of pipes and things like that. And so this is one I not only enjoy playing very much, but I love to watch other people play. My only negatives here are that the game has sort of a whimsical look to it, but it doesn't play that way. It's very thinky, it's very puzzly, so I worry that someone might go into it thinking, oh, this looks, well, fun. The game has it in the title, Factory Funner, being a sequel to Factory Fun. This one's even funner than that one. And they might get a game that's actually fairly dry and thinky. So that's my first concern. Second concern is I can definitely see how this game would not be for everyone. You have to be in the mood to solve puzzles. You have to be okay with someone seeing things a little bit faster than you, grabbing that tile you need, which is not the end of the world, does not wreck your game, but it will set you back a little bit. And you have to be very good at managing your resources because they are limited in the game. And so those are the big ones. You gotta be in the mood to play a puzzle. This is very much what you are getting in Factory Funner. Other than that, if you are in the mood for all those things, if you enjoy that style of gameplay, I think you are going to get that well and good. You're going to thoroughly enjoy that feeling and get it out of Factory Funner. And even Factory Fun. I remember the first time I played Factory Fun, the first release in this line, I played it one time and immediately wanted to play it again, and then immediately wanted to play it again. Ended up playing that night that I was taught the game about 8 times in a row. And that's gotta say something about that game. Because they're short enough that if you get into it and you're not quite ready to be done trying to piece all this together, it's gonna hook you, you're gonna wanna play again. So that's it for me for the Quirky Game, a tile laying game where the tiles are not land, where there is no game after that tile laying. It is all about that. It's all about solving that riddle and getting everything to click together, put that factory floor together and make it run just the way you want it to. That's Factory Funner.
everyone! I love games in which I can build my own little world. It doesn't really matter for me if this world is a treehouse, city, robotic theme park, a quilt, a Scottish landscape, dream home, a mighty dragon path, or an awesome palace. As long as I can build something and people cannot really disturb me while doing so, I can be the happiest girl in the world, looking down at her perfect lake surrounded by a wide mountain range. But sometimes this happiness is destroyed. Sometimes people find winning more important than giving me that perfect little tie that I need to make my perfect roof. So this week I don't have a board game in my office because this week I'm going to discuss a problem that I myself deal with every day, and it is called tile laying perfectionism. Here are some common symptoms to spot if you suspect your fellow gamers to suffer from tile laying perfectionism. Symptom number 1. Spending way too much time making sure that all your cards stick out the same way and have the exact same distance from each other. Symptom number 2. When playing with loose tiles, people suffering from tile laying perfectionism can be seen passively aggressively rearranging tiles and looking angry at people that clearly don't understand the rules of perfect alignment. Symptom number 3. People with tile laying perfectionism will happily give away a tile even if this is in their disadvantage, if that means that you will be able to form a perfect circle, a perfect square, or anything that will make your player board look perfect. Symptom number 4. Their board game shelf looks like the creator of Tetris designed it themselves, and they even admit that sometimes they buy a board game just so a part of their board game shelf can be completed. Winning is not the really important thing for people suffering from tile laying perfectionism. So making a move that makes them lose doesn't really bother them. However, if you dare to take a tile that would otherwise have finished my road, city, or anything else that would make it a perfect shape, the end of times is near. Just never, but really never do this to me, because I will look like a child that has just been robbed of their favorite brand of ice cream. So, if you think someone is suffering from tile laying perfectionism in your gaming group, don't be that person. Just give them that tile that they are swooning for. Because you can be in first place and be happy, and that person can also be happy looking down at the perfect little empire they created.
Hello friends, The Blend, and welcome back to Retro Board Game Corner. Today I'm going to be showing you a game where you actually buy property.
Is it Monopoly?
No, it's not Monopoly. You're going to actually buy property and build hotels.
Is it Monopoly?
No, it's not Monopoly. You're going to actually buy property and build hotels.
Is it Monopoly?
No, it's not Monopoly. It's... Hey, who put this here? This is what I think of this. Here we have Hotels, published in 1987 by Milton Bradley. This is a 2 to 4 player game in which you're trying to be the richest hotel tycoon. Let me set this up and show you how it works. So this is what the game board will look like set up. All the hotels are here or are off to the side. Everybody's going to pick a different color limo to be. Now every turn you are going to roll a 6-sided dice and move that many pips in a clockwise direction. There are 2 different spaces on the board. Buy and build. When your card lands on a buy space, you can either buy property on either side of the street. So for example, you could either buy this space right here or this space right here if nobody owns it. You look at the title deed card and it'll tell you how much the land costs. Now after you have purchased the land and you land on a build space, you can go ahead and start developing the land. Each card will have a different amount of what the buildings cost. You have to build the main building first, and then you can decide to put the other buildings around it. Now every time you land on a build space, you have to roll this dice. The greens means that you just pay whatever it says on the title card for the buildings you want to build. The red means that you cannot build this turn, and the 2 means that you have to pay double for what it actually costs. Once you have developed all the buildings for that property, you can go ahead and build the facilities, which is a swimming pool. Just put the swimming pool right there. You now have a 5-star hotel. Once you have at least 1 building on a property, you can go ahead and buy entrances to your property. The entrances will go right here on the property line right there, and whoever lands on that has to roll the 6-sided dice, and whatever number they get, that's how many nights they stay. And you look at the card here and you see how many buildings you have on there and how many nights, and that's how much money they owe you. If you land on a buy space and somebody owns the property that you want and has no buildings on there, you can go ahead and buy that property from the player, and the player can't do anything about it. The object of the game is to bankrupt all the other players and be the last player standing. This board really looks great after all the hotels are built, and this plays in half the time than that other game. Wait a minute, that game wasn't mine? Well, I'm sorry for ripping it up. Well, no, I'm not. May your rolls be high.
Hello folks, Mark here, and welcome to Thinking Inside the Box. In this series, I'm focusing on components, inserts, storage solutions, and games that already do both really well. Today, we are taking a look at Masmorra, and we're going to see just how much Custom Meeple can aid us in our quest to customize our player boards, along with a few other goodies. But first, what is Masmorra? Well, it is a time of legend. It was a magical dungeon built beneath the streets of Arcadia. It was meant to be a training grounds for young heroes such as yourself, until it was taken by force by an evil wizard.
Mark knows how to equip for an adventure. He has his sword. But wait just a minute, Mark. Don't go dungeon delving without your helm. It might even save your life.
Now you, the heroes, will play through several rounds, delving deeper and deeper into the dungeon, facing off against nasty monsters and gaining experience as you go. Okay, first off, I have to give mad props to CMON for their excellent included insert. Yes, it only fits the core game, but huge respect! So many publishers don't even bother trying when it comes to inserts, and this one has all kinds of awesome. Everything in the base set has its own designated spot for easy access and game setup.
Mark knows to always be prepared. In the case of Dragonfire, he knows exactly what to do. Duck and cover, just like our friend Bert the turtle.
What? Dragonfire? But how can we make this game even better, you might be wondering? Well, great question. So I love player mats in games, but dice or tokens can easily slide out of place from a simple or single bump to the table. Super annoying. Well, I think so anyway. Custom Meeple has designed acrylic overlays to solve this problem. Assembly is straightforward, just a little bit of glue to hold the guides in place. Then you position the player mat between the guides, drop the clear overlay into place, and you are ready to go. The overlay has cutouts for all your dice along with your health marker. The backs of the boards are raised, which easily allows you to slide your cards into place during play. I can't breathe in this thing! They also make some pretty slick health markers and death skull markers that can be used in Masmorra or really any game that needs to track health and damage. They also make many other types of acrylic tokens. So big thumbs up to Custom Meeple. If you love to customize your games like I do, then you must check out these overlays. Also give Massmore a closer look. We here at Boardgame Corner are big fans of the Arcadia Quest series of games.
Now that Mark is ready for adventure,
Haha!
let's give him a more appropriate weapon.
Wait, how am I supposed to battle with dice in my hand? Hello? To find out more info about Massmora or Custom Meeple accessories, check out their websites at cmon.com or custommeeple.com. And a big thanks to Cmon, Custom Meeple, and of course Eric Summer for helping with my segment this week. Alright folks, thanks for watching, happy organizing, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
That's going to do it for us, everybody. A big thanks to all my contributors. A big thanks to Asmodee for the codes for the Onirim app that we're going to be giving away. Get that email to me. And a big thanks to you as well for tuning in, for watching, for being a part of our little family. And as I always say, hey, stay a friend of the blend. I'll see you next time.